Well, I've got something rather unusual to show you today. In my series of reel-to-reel tape recorders, I've put out more than a dozen videos on various vintage reel-to-reel tape decks, from very cheap to a little more expensive. And I've had a lot of fun producing the videos for you, and I've gotten some great feedback from many of you, and I appreciate that so much. I just enjoy sharing my hobby. But I've got something here that not very many people have probably seen. You know, we look at reel-to-reel tape, and it's very thin, long tape. This is magnetic tape, and it's called, it's produced by IBM, and it's called Magna Belt. And this is one 20-minute recording, or it can be a 10-minute recording depending on the speed of the tape recorder. But this is one 20-minute recording right here. And if you look closely, you can see the lines where the tape head has touched. It's so like an LP album, where the needle starts on the outside and is just one continuous track all the way to the end of the record. This is the same way. This belt moves like this through the tape player, and the head moves across like this slowly as the belt turns. So there's just one continuous track, so to speak, where the tape head rides across slowly all the way across. Takes 20 minutes from get to one end to the other, and it records. So this is a recorded tape, a recorded Magna Belt. Pretty cool, huh? And let me jump in and say that the real benefit of the Magna Belt is that you can jump around and listen at any point on the belt that you want. You could never do that on a reel-to-reel. I stumbled on this by doing some research on some other recording medium, and I've got another one coming that I really am excited about showing you. That's a record player, and it'll be here soon. And I really bought it for my wife, but you know how that goes. But I'll be sharing that with you as well. But this, I stumbled on these videos of some guys that have collected these and repaired them. So I found two. One was not in very good condition, and thankfully, the first one I found was a Series 1, and the second one I got was a Series 2. So I get the best of both worlds. They're both Model 224s, but they made two different series, second generation, if you will. And they made some improvements and some changes in the second generation, but they didn't change the model number. And they're very similar, but there are some positive changes in the second generation. But this material is made, and you can see there's a piece of tape on the inside there, taping a long strap. So they cut these the right length and then put a seam on them. They have a little hole here. We'll see what that hole does. But this belt just moves through the player, the recorder, and you record. It was designed for the businessman, and this is the 224. Isn't it beautiful? Very compact, made to hold in one hand and to talk like this and to dictate. And you can see it had an indexing paper here. Well, they call it an index card that you would insert in here. It has a little felt tip marker in here that if you push this lever down, it marks the seconds place, and if you push it up, it marks the letter position. So if you were going to record several letters, and 20 minutes is a lot of dictation, or 10 minutes depending on the speed, you would jump ahead, move the recording head to wherever you want it, and then you would push up, and it would put a little mark on this little index card for the secretary to know that that's the beginning of a new letter. and you could either mark it on seconds or on letter numbers. So I don't really know what the difference is in their way of thinking. I'm sure IBM had some ideas, but then you would pull this out of the tape recorder and you would put by whoever did the recording, the department, the date, from number to number. So from 0 to 40 would be the letter or whatever that you had dictated. And you would give this and the tape to your secretary, and then he or she would take this tape, slip it into their device, and look at this information here and say, okay, I need to move up to 30 and start transcribing the letter off of 30 to 40 or whatever. So that was the idea behind the index card and the magna belt, the 3-inch magna belt. So back to the recorder, you've got a battery compartment here that held a cylindrical battery. And look here, IBM's name on the battery. Can't find these batteries anywhere anymore. 11.2 volts. Interestingly enough, this is a version 2. In the version 1 battery, and I'll show you when we salvage or try to dig out the battery that was in that recorder, and I recorded that as a 10.7 volt battery. Mercury cell, and this is made by Mallory. So Mallory made these and put this metal clad IBM label on the battery. Don't have any idea how long they lasted. They are not rechargeable. It even says on there, not rechargeable. They will explode or leak. I actually did try to charge this afternoon, really low charge rate. And I actually got it to read a terminal voltage of about 9 volts after charging it about 2 hours. But the second that you put it into the recorder, the battery dies. So it has to have a terminal voltage on it, but it can't carry any kind of current. I was just curious if it would take any kind of a charge. Anyway, that's the battery. And it also has a place for external control. So there's a place here for external power, external speaker, power control, remote control, forward, play and rewind and that kind of thing. So there are videos on YouTube that describe these functions, and I won't go into that in too much detail here because you can look those up. But it does have a record button. You just push that, start talking. The belt starts turning and you just talk away, and you can see the track moving slowly, as you'll see in a moment. When you're done recording, you're done. You can push this down to listen, and it'll back it up 5 seconds and let you listen for the last 5 seconds, or you can keep bumping it and you see it moving backwards. If I just bump it back, and it'll move it back several seconds and let you listen to what you just recorded. There's also a tuning button here. From tape to tape and device to device, there would be a chance that the recording head wouldn't line up directly with the actual recording. So if I took this tape and put it on another device, the tolerances and everything aren't going to be exactly the same. So they added a little tuning device that would allow you to move the head just slightly forward or slightly back a little bit to get right in the middle of the recording track to get your full volume of the recording track. And we'll illustrate that in a moment as well. So this, let me put the battery compartment back on. I'm not going to put the battery in it, but this was owned by someone here that worked in Trumbull Memorial Hospital in Warren, Ohio. So if any of you Ohioans can identify that hospital, you probably know exactly where it is. Has a built-in speaker, and this is metal, by the way, all metal. Has a microphone, has the external power and external controls here. There's a little set screw, a set screw opening here to slide this into a leather case. Beautiful, genuine leather case. So this whole thing just slips right inside here, just like that. And then you tighten that knob to hold it in place and lock it in, and you're ready to go. Got a nice little carrying handle. Beautiful, genuine leather, cowhide, I'm sure. Probably would say that somewhere if you look. So I don't see it anywhere where it says genuine cowhide. You remember how everything would state that it was genuine cowhide. Anyway, so that's the IBM 224. Isn't it beautiful? Now, this particular model has some other openings here, I think, for an external thing that snaps in place. I'm not sure, frankly, but it's got a little opening here to let you see the belt moving, so you can see that the belt is actually moving. And of course, we don't have a battery for it. So let's, in a moment, let's just take a look. We're going to run it in a minute. You push this little button right here, and the whole thing just slides open like that. So you have access to the belt. See? And so then you lift this lever and pull the belt right out. Just like that. And when you're ready to record, just close it up and snap it back together and start recording. Pretty nice little setup. Very simple controls and pretty impressive technology. But very unusual, isn't it? Imagine a magna belt. I wonder who came up with that idea. Instead of reels that you had to fiddle with, you don't have to fiddle with reels anymore. You just slide a belt into the machine and you're good to go. And I just happen to have a pack of magna belts. And I have 3 more here. So there's one in the machine. There's one here that was in this pack. I pulled it out to show you. I got this from the version 1 tape deck. And here they are, all ready to go. Brand new. You can tell they've never been tracked in a machine, so they've not even been touched. There's 3 more in here. So it's pretty nice to have some brand new belts. And we're going to record on one of them, but isn't that a cool case that came with it? This came from the nursing office. This was registered nurse Patricia, who this was apparently her department. Trumbull Memorial Hospital since 1907. So a great business tool. There's no recording on these, and I checked one that had been in the machine. You could tell because it has lines on it. They must have erased it, which is cool. So there's no other secret agent recordings or anything on it. But I just love this little box here that the tapes come in. And you can see this is the portable device, and then this apparently is the transcription device here. That, well, I get it, yeah, this way. Apparently this is what the secretary would use and put the belt in there from the device and would transcribe it. So those are the magna belts, 3-inch magna belts. So let's see. Well, I guess let's get on with the teardown of version 1. And I've got several minutes of video on the teardown of that unit and what I discovered with the battery and all of that mess. And then we'll switch to the, we switched the belt, took the belt and a gear out of version 1 that were still in usable condition. The belt, you'll see particles, pieces of the belt that were completely dissolved and corroded, messed up. And the gear, the drive gear in this was damaged. So I took the good parts out of the version 1 and put them in the version 2, and it works great. I'm so impressed and so happy that I've got a working model now. I am still thinking and looking about a possible 12 volt, 11.2 volt battery solution. Still pondering. It's too big for a 9 volt battery. I thought about just using a 9 volt because a 9 volt would run, but 9 volt won't quite fit in there. I thought I could use a couple of them in parallel, but see, it just almost fits, but not, I can't force it in there, obviously. So I'm stuck with trying to come up with another solution. Inside these battery compartments, they wrapped a service record. I had a service record in the other battery compartment. This one was serviced in 1974, and I found a 1972 date inside the tape recorder, a date code 1972. So this is a 1972 model. The version 1 that I had was 1969, I think, 70, somewhere in there. So it was a couple of years older, excuse me. And so they made changes in the two versions. Let me show you real quickly a couple of the differences, and then we'll get on with some of the more fun stuff. One of the things that they changed from the old model to the new was that there used to be a window right here across this face. Well, they removed that window. I don't know why. It's not just missing, it's just never was put in there. It is a nice touch. It's kind of an attractive piece to have that window in there. At least I think so. And so I'm curious why they didn't include it in the new version. Maybe it was a manufacturing thing and they just didn't want to spend the money. But this window flips open like this so that you can get to the card. And see, isn't that nice? That's a beautiful little window, but it's clearly not part of the second generation design. They just didn't put it in there. And so you can see there's no provision for it on the side over here at all. So I might be mistaken about that, but I don't see any evidence at all of the ability to put a window over the label. And I don't guess that it's really necessary because you can just slide this index card right out. So that's one change. And another change that they made was that they removed the external power. So there's a 10, 12 volt, whatever, external power connector right here. And they moved that external power to this. And they removed it from here. That's the screw for the leather case that holds the leather case on, or holds it into the leather case. So there's no external power separate. It's all built into the connector here. And I created after a little bit of research, see if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. I created a 2-pin power plus and minus battery connectors, and I hooked it up to my power supply here in the bench. Used some epoxy and cut some pins to fit the connector, and this plugs right into the device to power it. So we can demo the IBM 224 for you today without the use of a battery. Okay, I think that's it. I think that pretty much covers the general thoughts about the IBM 224. So let's get into some more of the technical stuff and demo recording and playing back some voice and music just for kicks. Obviously it wasn't designed for music, but I think you'll be surprised and pleased at the fidelity of the recording on these, what are they, 50-year-old tapes, magna belts. I want to add, before we move on to the repair, that I'm going to create another video on finding a substitute battery for the IBM 224. This battery is no longer available. It's a 11.2 volt. The version 1 is a 10.7 volt. So a 12 volt battery, this probably had a terminal voltage of over 12 volts, but originally, you can't find a 12 volt battery that has enough current to drive the unit, which runs around 80 to 100 milliamps. So I discovered a 6 volt battery that's smaller, about half the size of this cell. So I've ordered 2 of those 6 volt batteries, and I'm going to put them together and put them inside a 3D printed sleeve so that we can then just pop it inside the 224. We'll be able to slide that sleeve right in and use the battery power on the 224 as well as using the external power that we created for this external connector. But I'm going to do a separate video on the battery power for that, and so be on the lookout for that particular video. And so now we can move on to the repair of the IBM 224. So part 2 is coming up, and I hope you enjoy this series on the IBM 224.